week. Mom's pot roast, Dad's wine selection, and my brother Jason holding court about his latest career milestone. So they're making me Senior Director of Marketing, Jason announced, waving his promotion letter like a trophy. 20% raise. New office with a window. Company car allowance. That's wonderful, honey. Mom clasped her hands together. How much is the raise? 80,000 base salary now. Plus bonuses, I could hit 95. 80,000. Dad raised his wine glass. How that's success. That's what happens when you stay focused and climb the corporate ladder properly. The words hung in the air with their usual implication. Unlike your sister who's still finding herself. Congratulations, Jason, I said, meaning it. He'd worked hard for this. Thanks, sis. Maybe this year you'll finally figure out what you want to do. He grinned, thinking he was being playful rather than condescending. I was 31. Jason was 34. For the past decade, every family gathering had featured some version of this dynamic. Jason's steady corporate ascent celebrated while my unconventional path was treated as an extended quarter-life crisis. I'm doing fine, I said quietly. She's still doing that app development thing, Mom explained to Jason's wife, Ashley, as if I wasn't sitting right there. We keep hoping she'll find something more stable. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. The problem with freelancing, Dad said, settling into lecture mode, is there's no security, no benefits, no retirement plan, no clear path forward. I have a retirement plan. When I was your age, I already had 10 years at the firm, Dad continued. Building equity, establishing relationships, creating a foundation. That's how you build real wealth. Jason leaned back in his chair, comfortable in his role as the successful son. Not too late to get a real job, Rachel. I could probably get you an interview in our marketing department. Entry level, but it's a foot in the door. That's kind of you, but... My phone buzzed again. Insistently. Rachel, please put your phone away, Mom said. We're having family dinner. I pulled it out to silence it and saw 3 missed calls from my lawyer, 2 from my financial advisor, and a text message preview that made my heart skip. Deal closed. Wire transfer confirmed. Call me. Sorry, I need to check this, I said, standing. Really? Jason laughed. What's so urgent it can't wait an hour? I walked to the hallway and called my lawyer back. Rachel, congratulations, Martin said immediately. The acquisition just finalized. TechCore's payment cleared. $80 million has been wired to your account as of 15 minutes ago. I leaned against the wall, letting it sink in. 6 years of building datastream analytics from a one-person operation in my apartment to a company that TechCore Industries couldn't afford not to buy. 6 years of 16-hour days, failed pitches, near-bankruptcy moments, and finally, explosive growth. The stock options vest over 3 years as discussed, Martin continued. That's another potential $40 million depending on TechCore's performance. But the cash portion, $80 million, that's yours free and clear. Congratulations, Rachel. You're officially set for life. Thank you, Martin. For everything. You did this. I just handled the paperwork. Enjoy tonight. You've earned it. I hung up and stood in the hallway for a moment, processing. $80 million. In my account. Right now. From the dining room, I heard Jason's voice. She's probably dealing with some client emergency. Freelancer problems. I walked back in and sat down, slipping my phone into my pocket. Everything okay? Mom asked with exaggerated concern. Everything's fine. Good. Now, Jason was just telling us about the new car he's thinking of getting with his raise. A BMW. The 5 Series, Jason said proudly. I've wanted one since college. Finally at the point where I can afford it without being irresponsible. That's wonderful, I said, refilling my water glass from the pitcher. Ashley chimed in. We're also finally booking that trip to Italy we've been planning. With Jason's new salary, we can actually afford it. You two have worked so hard, Mom said warmly. You deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Dad nodded. That's what happens when you build a solid career. Financial freedom. The ability to enjoy life. Rachel, this is what we've been trying to tell you. Stability leads to opportunity. I understand. Do you, though? Jason leaned forward, his tone shifting to brotherly concern. Because you're always so secretive about your finances. Never talking about what you make or where you're at. That usually means someone's struggling but too proud to admit it. I'm not struggling. Then what do you make? Ballpark. Because if you're doing okay, you shouldn't be embarrassed to say. The table went quiet, everyone looking at me expectantly. I could have let it go. Could have deflected, changed the subject, let them continue believing I was barely scraping by while Jason thrived. I was tired. Tired of being treated like the family project. Tired of my success being invisible because I didn't package it in corporate titles and salary announcements. I just sold my company, I said quietly. Your app thing? Mom asked. DataStream Analytics. The data aggregation and predictive analytics platform I've been building for 6 years. TechCore Industries acquired it. The deal closed about 20 minutes ago. Jason's smile faltered slightly. That's great. How much did they pay? $80 million. Plus stock options that vest over 3 years, potentially worth another $40 million depending on TechCore's stock performance. The silence was absolute. Dad's wine glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Ashley's mouth fell open. Jason looked like I'd spoken in a foreign language. 80 million? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. The wire transfer just cleared. My lawyer called to confirm. You're saying you just made $80 million? Dad's voice was sharp, disbelieving. That's the acquisition price for DataStream, yes. My ownership stake was 65%, so after taxes and legal fees, my net will be around $48 million. The stock options could add another $25 million over the next few years. Jason's face had gone pale. That's not possible. You work from your apartment. I worked from my apartment for the first 2 years. We've had office space in Manhattan for the past 4 years. Currently we have 43 employees across engineering, sales, and customer success. 43 employees? Mom looked faint. DataStream provides predictive analytics for supply chain optimization. Our clients include 17 Fortune 500 companies. Last year's revenue was $22 million. TechCore acquired us because our technology integrates perfectly with their enterprise platform. The pot roast was getting cold. No one was eating. Why didn't you tell us? Dad's voice had an edge to it, anger mixed with confusion. I tried. Multiple times. But every conversation about my work got dismissed as app development or freelancing. Last Thanksgiving I mentioned landing Walmart as a client, and Jason suggested I should try to get a job in their IT department instead of just doing contract work for them. Jason flinched. At Easter I brought up our Series B funding round, and Dad told me to stop throwing around Silicon Valley buzzwords and focus on getting a real job with benefits. Dad opened his mouth then closed it. Last month I tried to explain that we were in acquisition talks, and Mom asked if I'd considered going back to school for an MBA since my startup thing wasn't working out. Mom's eyes were watering. We didn't know. You didn't listen. There's a difference. Ashley found her voice. So you're saying you're worth $50 million? On paper, yes. Liquid assets after the acquisition and tax implications. Around $48 million immediately, with another potential $25 million over 3 years. Plus I've been drawing a salary for 4 years and had some early investments that performed well. Total net worth is approximately $65 million. The number sat on the table like a bomb. Jason's promotion letter, the one he'd been waving around 15 minutes ago, lay forgotten next to his plate. $80,000 suddenly looked very different when sitting across from $80 million. I don't understand, Jason said, his voice tight. How is that even possible? You're younger than me. You didn't even finish your MBA. I dropped out of the MBA program because I got into Y Combinator. That's a startup accelerator in Silicon Valley. They gave us our first real funding and mentorship. We built DataStream during that program. But you never said anything about Silicon Valley or startup accelerators, Mom protested. I did. You thought I was wasting my time playing tech entrepreneur, instead of getting a real job. You sent me Indeed.com listings for administrative assistant positions. The memory of that email, subject line, some opportunities for you, still stung. We were trying to help, Dad said weakly. You were trying to fix what you thought was broken. But I was never broken. I was building something. Jason pushed his plate away. So what now? You're just rich. You don't have to work anymore. I have a 3-year consulting contract with TechCore as part of the acquisition. They want me to help integrate DataStream and potentially build additional products. After that, I'll probably start another company. I like building things. Of course you do, Jason muttered. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. It's just, I've spent 12 years climbing the corporate ladder, doing everything right, following the path Dad laid out. And you just skip all that and make a fortune. I didn't skip anything, Jason. I worked 100-hour weeks for years. I maxed out credit cards to make payroll. I almost lost everything 3 times. I just did it in a way you didn't recognize as legitimate work. That's not fair. Isn't it? You literally offered me an entry-level job in your marketing department 10 minutes ago. You thought I needed your help to get a foot in the door. You had no idea what I'd actually accomplished because you never asked. Dad set down his wine glass with careful precision. I think we all need to take a breath here. I'm perfectly calm, Dad. I'm just pointing out that this family has spent 6 years treating me like a failure when I was actually building a multimillion-dollar company. We never said you were a failure, Mom said. You didn't have to say it. It was in every pitying look, every suggestion that I get a stable job, every comparison to Jason's corporate success. The message was clear. I wasn't measuring up. Ashley spoke up, her voice cautious. To be fair, Rachel, you were very private about your work. We only knew what you told us. I told you plenty. I told you about landing major clients, about funding rounds, about hiring employees. But because it didn't come with a corporate title and a benefits package, you didn't hear it as success. You heard it as me still figuring things out. Well, I think this calls for a celebration, Mom said with forced brightness, trying to salvage the evening. Rachel, this is wonderful news. We're so proud of you. Are you? Or are you just impressed by the number? The question hung uncomfortably in the air. Because I've been the same person for 6 years. I've been building DataStream, growing it, succeeding at it. The only thing that changed in the last 20 minutes is that you learned the dollar amount. If the acquisition had been for $800,000 instead of $80 million, would we be celebrating? Or would you still be suggesting I get a real job? No one answered. I'm going to go, I said, standing. Thank you for dinner, Mom. Jason, congratulations on your promotion. I really do mean that. It's a solid achievement. Rachel, don't leave like this, Dad said. I'm not leaving angry. I'm just leaving. I have a lot to process and I don't think I can do that here. I grabbed my coat from the hallway. As I reached the door, Jason appeared. Hey, wait. I turned. I'm sorry, he said quietly. You're right. I didn't take your work seriously. I thought I was being helpful, offering you job opportunities, but I was actually being condescending. Yeah, you were. For what it's worth, what you've built is incredible. Genuinely incredible. I don't fully understand it, but I understand enough to know you did something I could never do. Thank you. Are we okay? We will be. But Jason, I need you to understand, this isn't about the money. It's about being seen. About being respected for what I chose to do with my life, even when it looked different from what you expected. He nodded. I get it. Or I'm starting to. I drove home to my apartment. The one they'd all assumed was a sign of financial struggle but was actually a rent-controlled place I'd kept because I liked the neighborhood and saw no reason to waste money on expensive real estate when I was focused on building a company. My phone was exploding with messages. My team at DataStream celebrating. Former investors congratulating me. LinkedIn notifications from every tech publication wanting to cover the acquisition. And one text from Mom. We really are proud of you, sweetheart. I'm sorry we didn't show it before. I stared at that message for a long time. The thing about being underestimated is that it gives you fuel. Every time, every comparison to someone else's more traditional success, it all becomes kindling for the fire that drives you forward. But once you succeed, once you prove everyone wrong, that fuel burns out. And you're left with the question, what now? I had $48 million in my bank account. I had proven I could build something valuable. I had validation from the market, from investors, from tech core industries. But the validation I'd wanted most, from my family, had only come after the dollar amount was announced. That night, I didn't celebrate with champagne or fancy dinner. I ordered Thai food, sat on my couch and thought about what I wanted to build next. Because Jason was right about one thing. I like building things. Not for the money, though that's nice. Not for the validation, though I'm human enough to want it. But because there's something deeply satisfying about seeing a problem, imagining a solution and making it real. The next Sunday I went back to family dinner. Jason was more subdued, asking actual questions about DataStream and listening to the answers. Dad seemed uncertain how to relate to me now. Mom kept offering to celebrate in various elaborate ways. But it was different. They saw me differently. Not because I'd changed, but because they finally understood what I'd been building all along. So what's next? Dad asked over dessert. I have some ideas. The logistics industry has some inefficiencies I think I could solve. And I've been thinking about healthcare data integration. Another startup? Jason asked. Maybe. Or maybe I just consult for a while, help other founders avoid the mistakes I made. Whatever you decide, Dad said carefully, I'd like to understand it. Really understand it. Not dismiss it. I'd like that too. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. Years of being underestimated don't disappear with one conversation.